The only survivor of the deadly tournament returns to the game 2 years later to stop the organizers, but everything immediately goes off the rails, forcing him to survive once again. I survived the Korean War and I won't die playing children's games. The action of the second season picks up right where the first one left off. The survivor of the survival tournament in children's games leaves the airport wanting to find the organizers of the game. In a public restroom, after stripping down to nothing, he finds a hidden bug and removes it with a utility knife. 2 years later, the survivor uses his winnings to hire an army of former collectors to search the subway stations for the mysterious stranger who recruited him. Officer Chun, who survived the shooting of his brother, the leader, and his fall into the sea, and who has now become a traffic policeman, is also looking for the organizers. With the help of the fisherman who saved him in open water, Chun explores the waters, hoping to find the island where the competitions are held. One day, 2 hired former collectors find the recruiter. They report this to Sun while he is on his way to the right station, keeping an eye on the stranger. He changes tactics, offering the homeless people in the park a choice of bread or a lottery. Most choose the illusory chance to get rich for free. The performance ends with the recruiter just stomping his feet. Unwanted buns in front of hungry ragamuffins. When he leaves in a taxi, the collectors follow him. Arriving at the address, they decide to detain the stranger, but he skillfully fights back against the 2 of them. Sun, who is in a hurry, is stopped by Chun's patrol to issue a ticket. The police officer, plagued by vague suspicions, writes down the car's license plate number to check it against the database, recalling that he had encountered the driver before, shortly before arriving on the island. Thanks to his professional connections, he finds the addresses of the companies registered in his name. Arriving at the location, Sun finds signs of a struggle, unaware that the recruiter is watching him from the roof. Then the stranger offers the captive collectors to play a game of rock, paper, scissors plus Russian roulette.
There was supposed to be one hand.
Rock, paper, scissors! One hand!
Rock, paper, scissors!
After knocking out the brains of one collector due to a loss, he talks to the second one to find out why they were following him. Sun returns to the hotel he bought, where the recruiter is already waiting for him. To spice up the meeting, he suggests playing Russian roulette, but without spinning the chamber after each attempt. The participants take turns pressing the revolver to their heads and pulling the trigger until only one shot remains. To prove that he is not a lapdog of rich, spoiled sadists, but a person of willpower, the recruiter presses the gun to his head and pulls the trigger. Chun, who had driven up to the building, runs to the sound of the shot. He wants to arrest Sun on suspicion of murder, but he gets knocked out by Vusok, the collector who was kidnapped by the recruiter and has just regained consciousness. Being a loyal friend of the deceased boss and having heard about the game through him, Vusok wants to help Sun reach the organizers so that his friend's death won't be in vain. Waking up, Chun admits that he was on the island disguised as one of the soldiers in pink. He offers his help to Sun. Then the winner of the game shows his new accomplices his arsenal of weapons bought on the black market, as well as those organized on the motel floor. Shooting range. Sun orders Vusok to gather an army of reliable people. They will be needed to bring it to life. His plan is to kidnap the host from the club, the address of which is written on the business card of the dead recruiter. In his free time, Sun watches his younger brother Sebek, the refugee from North Korea who made it to the finals with him, ended up dying at the hands of his friend, whose mother he left the boy with, along with a suitcase of money. He also hires a detective to help bring Sebek's mother over and reunite her with her son. Another defector from North Korea, Il, also approaches the same agency. But another defector from North Korea, has a little daughter left behind there. She also wants to bring her over, but the detective can't manage it. Find the girl. But Il works as an entertainer at an amusement park, sleeping in her car in the parking lot to save money. At work, she notices a little girl who looks like her child, the daughter of one of her colleagues. The girl is sick with blood cancer, so when Il receives a business card from the recruiter, she agrees to participate in another game to earn money for her treatment. The underground doctor puts an implant with a tracker in Sun's place of the extracted tooth, an implant with a tracker to monitor the location. Vusok gathers a team of trusted mercenaries, former soldiers, special forces, and demolition experts. Then they head to the nightclub to find the host. Chun stays outside with the mercenaries while Sun and Vusok go inside. When 2 soldiers in pink arrive at the club, Chun follows behind. He finds Vusok knocked out by a stun gun, while Sun is being led to a white limousine. He was brought home in this car, being the winner. In the cabin, Sun finds a communication device instead of the host, through which the host communicates. The host tells him that he should have flown to America to see his daughter instead of trying to find them. The game can't be stopped as long as there are fat cats going crazy with wealth and poor people willing to do anything for money. Chun and the mercenaries chase the limousine in 3 cars, planning to intercept it in a secluded spot and capture the host. The police officer doesn't tell anyone that it's his brother. However, precise shots from snipers in pink puncture the tires, making the chase impossible. Realizing that the capture has failed, Sun moves to plan B and asks to be put back in the game. The host agrees and releases gas into the cabin, putting the guest to sleep, after which the partition between the driver's and passenger's seats lowers. Meanwhile, in the parking lot of the long-haul trucks, Il is also getting ready for the game. But not as a participant, but as one of the guards. The next day, Chun and the mercenaries set out to sea on a boat to find the island where the competition is taking place, following the beacon signal. At that time, Sun wakes up in a familiar hangar, where another 456 losers have gathered, ready to do anything for the cash prize. It turns out that there is now a relaxation in the rules. The survivors can end the game early by voting and share the accumulated prize, which increases from level to level. Among the new participants is a trader and YouTube blogger named Men, who lost money on cryptocurrency investments. There's a rapper named Thanos here, who lost a ton of money after following Men's advice. What is he accusing the blogger of? There's Pak, the son of a shaman who has fallen into debt, and his elderly mother, Ja, who wants to help her son pay off his loans. Next to Sun is Sunyo, a shaman who sees to the root. Sun is behaving calmly, hoping that the beacon in his crown will soon bring help. On his way to the first game, he is caught up by Chon, his best friend from the first season, whom he had not seen. 3 years. The veteran, as of the games, tells his friend to stick close. The players are released onto a fenced area with a huge doll for the game, red light, green light. Sun looks up at the sky, hoping to see the mercenaries' copter. They have reached the island and are following the signal. But instead of the competitions, they come across a lonely fisherman, to whom a stranger gave a jar of bait. The beacon pulled from a fake tooth lies among the worms. After retrieving the useless crown, Sun realizes that he has to play again. He instructs the players, warning them that the doll has motion sensors in its eyes and that they will be killed if they lose. At his command, the players slowly move forward, but without losing anyone. Sun lines up the participants in a train formation to disguise and increase their chances. So it continues until a bee lands on one of the girls. She flinches in fear, after which she gets shot. This triggers panic and a stampede, which leads to a mass shooting, partly due to the efforts involved. But her attention is drawn to player number 246, the father of the sick girl from the park. Sun continues to command, covering his mouth with his hand to avoid being detected by the sensor. Neither he nor the other players notice how Thanos, having gotten high in the meantime, is pushing the other participants, condemning them to death. As the time allocated for the game was almost up, the remaining participants crossed the finish line. One person is left lying on the field, wounded by a shot to the leg. Sun goes back for him along with a girl to pull him out at the last moment. However, Butil finishes off the wounded player since he is already out according to the rules. After the first game, the players return to the sleeping hangar. When the soldiers in pink appear, Sun activates the voting to end the game early. Under the pressure of questions, he admits that he has already participated in the event and became a finalist. The participants' opinions are divided again. Some want to bail out, while others want to increase the pot by taking out other participants. If there's a finalist among us, then we have nothing to fear. The voting is neck and neck, despite Sun's campaigning being cut off by the guards. The last to vote is participant number 1, who turns out to be In Ho, the host and the brother of the police officer Chon. Like the previous number 1, he wants to experience the thrill of participating personally, so he votes to continue. After the voting, the first one approaches Sun to say that it was his success that inspired him to continue the game. Other players gather around, wanting to get some insights from the seasoned veteran. He reluctantly shares his experience. Soon a young Dae-ho joins their team, who like Chon served in the Marine Corps. The first fight breaks out among the participants. The rapper Thanos and his friend attack a blogger because of the advice he gave, which led to a bad investment and lost money. The first one breaks up the fight, taking down the drug-addicted musician and his lackey, earning grateful applause from the other participants. Before lights out, the first one approaches Sun to talk. He tells the story of his life about his sick wife who, despite the threat to her life, decided to give birth to their child. To pay for the treatment, he borrowed money, but they considered it a bribe and fired him. Except for the fact that this happened a long time ago and his wife is already dead. It's a true story. After lights out, the organ traders among the guards are unhappy that the bodies are coming in dead. But Il was finishing off the wounded so they wouldn't suffer. She is called to the coordinator of the underground market, but she still refuses to help her colleagues sell the organs. In the morning, the blogger's ex-girlfriend Kim approaches him. She's pregnant because she refused to have an abortion. She came to the games to earn money for her child because her man left her. Then the second round of the games begins. The participants are taken out to the field with 2 rainbow paths and asked to split into teams of 5. Realizing that this is a new game, Sun feels lost. Chon Dae-ho and the first join his team. The last to join them is Jun, who is taken in out of pity for her situation. The other players also split up by teams, including almost an all-female squad made up of the old lady Ja, the shaman, Son Yo, and the transgender woman Hyun. After the teams are formed, the participants are explained the rules. The team has their legs tied together, after which they walk in a circle. They have to cover the entire distance in 5 minutes, stopping to win in 5 mini-games. During the preparation time, Sun's team decides which game they will play. The competition begins. 2 teams start simultaneously on 2 platforms. One team stuck on the first game moves ahead faster, while the competitors from the first attempt are wasting all their time trying to get past the second. From the nervous tension, the player throwing the stone even wet himself, but all their efforts still went to waste. When the time was up, the guards in pink ruthlessly shot the participants. In the stillness of the body, the soldiers marked the coffin of the wounded but alive man with a red cross. A secret mark for organ traffickers. But the officer, ill orders to open the lid to finish off the survivor and cut the smuggling at the root. The second duet involves the women's team with the wayward son of Yong-sik. The women, to the approving roar of the audience, pass one test after another, even if not the first time. At one point, the transgender person has to give the shaman a sobering slap to help her focus. In the final challenge, Hyun asks everyone to turn away so she can, with great focus and determination, score 5 points with a special ball. To the cheers and encouraging chants of the crowd, filled with excitement, they cross the finish line in the final seconds. All teams take turns going through the challenges. Some succeed, while others are shot, sometimes just a couple of steps from the finish. The winners are taken away, reducing the number of spectators. Sonu's team performs last when there's no one left to cheer for them. They pass 3 mini-games on the first try, before it's time for the first one to launch the top. He's so nervous that nothing is going right for him, but the time he's gained allows him to make a few attempts before he finally succeeds. In the final challenge, Sun scores points with a sword. After scoring 4, he almost makes a mistake, but the first one stretches out his leg with the chained foot. Comrade, go ahead to score the last one. The team manages to reach the ribbon at the last moment, but their opponents were shot. When they are brought into the hangar, some are happy that they survived, while others are worried that the prize pool won't increase much due to the dead. It seems they're not very happy to see us. At this time, 2 colleagues from the dangerous pink business attack No. Despite her skilled resistance, they beat up the fragile girl, threatening to hurt her next time if she interferes with their organ trafficking. Soon the staff informs the players about the increase in the prize pool and starts another democratic vote for an early termination. The votes are suspiciously split evenly again, prompting Sunu and the first one to give a speech about the need to end the competition. They are opposed by disgruntled players who want to solve all their financial problems in one go. Considering that the tasks aren't that complicated, completely ignoring the risk, the participants collectively decide to play another round and then take the money. This time, the vote goes overwhelmingly in favor of those who want to continue. After him, the remaining ones discuss the prospects. Someone voted differently than the team had agreed, including Yoon-sik, who disobeyed Maju and their transport worker Hyun. Jung also pressed the circle instead of the cross, which upset Sonu. Nevertheless, the team stays together. At night, Sun advises to set up guards, fearing that it might happen again. A mass brawl with killings, just like last time. The organizers do not put a stop to such lawlessness. In the last game, dozens of people died, fighting each other in the dark. The next morning, the players are taken to the next challenge. As they step into the third round, Sun doesn't know that his team of mercenaries is led by Chun. They set out on 2 boats to scour the sea in search of the island where he's being held. The new game is called the Third Wheel. The players are spinning on the big carousel, and after the music stops, the host calls out a number. In 30 seconds, the participants must split into groups of that many people and enter one of the 50 rooms. The first number is 10. After finding 5 more, the team huddles in a room, watching through the window as the pink soldiers shoot those who didn't make it in time. But Il doesn't stop his colleagues this time from leaving the wounded for organ transplantation. The number 4 is called for the second time. The first one sends the team into the room while he goes to look for 3 more. In one of the rooms, 3 participants are hiding, thinking that the organizers won't catch them breaking the rules. But with the help of video surveillance, they are tracked down and shot right through the window. After the shooting, the disgruntled shaman, who was rejected by her team, gives her former partners a nasty look. The first one returns to his group. In the 3rd round, the number 3 is called. Thanos' team is faced with a choice, which leads to a split. The cowardly Min betrays the girl Sami, who took care of him. Sun and the first one, letting their own go, look for one more and notice the remaining Jew, whose son was taken away by 2 men. After the shooting, the participants gather on the platform, united by the loss of the eliminated players. The Team 6 is called. After sending 1 man away with the women, Sun and the first one are looking for more people again. During the fight, the blogger men calls those who left into the room, but one girl falls behind, knocked down. However, she wouldn't have had enough space anyway, and the guards kill her right in front of the door. The remaining participants are getting ready for the final round. The first one, after counting the survivors and the number of rooms, says that the number will be 2, following the trend of reduction, and the fact that there are more than 100 players but only 50 rooms. That's how it happens. Breaking into pairs, the participants run to occupy the safe rooms. The first one runs in a pair with Chon, coming back for him when competitors grab him. They sneak into the room where one player is already present. To avoid disqualification, the first one puts his opponent in a chokehold and breaks his neck just before the timer runs out. After the game, while returning to the hangar, they discuss the number of X's and O's that voted for leaving and continuing the game. According to all the counts, it turns out that there are more O's, but some people, including Chon, have changed their minds and are ready to leave with the current bank. But to avoid provoking conflict, they decide not to persuade their greedy colleagues in the dangerous competition. While the voting is going on, the mercenaries and Chun use a drone to survey a suspicious island. Noticing a door, they land there and go to check it out, but fall victim to a planted bomb, losing 1 fighter and injuring another. Realizing that the organizers are aware that they are being searched for, the mercenaries decide to stay alert and vigilant. Confidentiality in negotiations. As a result of the voting, it becomes clear that there is a slight majority of those wanting to leave the competition. It seems like it's a done deal. The last 2 remaining are the 2 who refuse. However, the second to last woman changes her mind under the influence of the shamaness, who is unhappy that she was betrayed. She even cursed her former teammates. The first one votes last. His vote will either result in a tie or a victory for those wanting to continue. Out of nerves, Chun almost tells his teammates how he witnessed another participant being killed right in front of him. But he doesn't make it. The man votes against, making it a tie. The organizers give everyone until tomorrow to think it over, after which they will hold a revote. Until then, I advise you to think carefully about your future. Young Sik is trying to convince the O's to vote for leaving so they can go home, rest, and have a proper meal. However, this sparks fury among those wanting to grab the big prize, which almost leads to a fight. Later in the bathroom, Thanos and his friend intimidate the man who betrayed them by voting against participation, ashamed of having previously betrayed Sammy. In the midst of this, the blogger Mion catches them and stands up for the guy. A conflict of interest leads to a fight, during which the blogger stabs the rapper in the throat with a metal fork he got at dinner, thus shifting the balance of power. Outside the door, the guards calmly listen to the sounds of the scuffle, not intervening. The result of the great bathroom brawl was 5 corpses. When the fighters were brought back to the hangar, the situation heated up again. The fight doesn't happen, but the dreamers realize that those wanting to continue will assess the balance of power and will attack at night to even the odds. He suggests another plan for a preemptive counterattack. Hide under the beds and then pretend to be dead, all to attack the guards and take their firearms. The downside is that for this, you first need the corpses, which will appear during the nighttime chaos. Meanwhile, on the mercenaries' boat, one of them notices that the captain is doing something with his drone. A sailor stabs an observant passenger with a knife from behind, then dumps the body into the water. To the one who arrived in the chaos, he lies that he heard some noise, and thus the incident is concluded. When it's time for lights out and the lights go off, the O's sneak in for the attack. The most combat-ready forces of the X's are hiding under the bunks, waiting for the organizers to deploy the guards. She's already waiting in full readiness behind the door. After waiting the appropriate pause, the guards enter the hangar, separating the fighters. When the Pinks check the bodies, they suddenly attack, pulling out weapons and opening fire on the other guards. The shootout reduces the number of guards and captures one in the desert. In captivity, when the survivors began to retreat. After the showdown, the Dreamer puts a stop to the justified and logical desire to shoot the O's for the bloody massacre. Sun's team gathers weapons and magazines, after which they prepare to storm the administrative block. To do this, they recruit volunteers from among the remaining participants. A few X's are called, realizing that there's no way out of this event otherwise. Hyun explains the basics of handling weapons to those gathered. Fortunately, during her time as a man, she served in special forces, and then with a precise shot she takes out the surveillance camera. Sun orders the prisoner to take off his mask and at gunpoint forces him to lead them to the administration. The squad of revolutionaries moves up the bright staircases, shooting at the rear guards and destroying cameras. But Dae-ho is acting way too scared for a former Murpek. Near the entrance to the administrative building, the squad falls into an ambush. The prisoner is killed by his own, even though he managed to tell them how to get to the control point. Taking his faithful Jong with him, Song sets off further with him, leaving the others to fend off the pink minions. As they open doors along the way, they realize that they lead nowhere, like fake doors from an interdimensional cable commercial. As they move up the monotonous purple staircases, shooting at the pink guards, Sun notices that the soldiers are hiding magazines not just on their belts, but also in their pockets. Soon they encounter a superior group of opponents and call for reinforcements. The first reports that they have no supplies, but he and 2 fighters will be there soon. Meanwhile, Dae-ho sends someone back to the hangar to rummage through the pockets of the remaining guards there and collect magazines. The first one, along with 2 volunteers, decides to bypass the enemies who are holed up on the stairs to hit them from the flank, but in the process he reveals his true colors and shoots them in the back. Then he radios Sun to inform him that they lost the fight. The comrades left behind also shot up all their ammo, and Dae-ho, after gathering a bunch of magazines, chickened out at the last moment and decided to stay in the hangar, pretending he wasn't involved. A fresh squad of pinks enters the hangar. Meanwhile, their colleagues surround the remaining rebels who have run out of ammo. Upon receiving the message that their comrades are surrendering, Sun realizes that the coup attempt has failed. They, along with Sun, have no choice but to raise their hands. After that, someone in a suit and black mask comes down to them. The host of the event, hiding his face, is the first. As punishment, the host shoots Chon. Pinned to the floor by the soldiers and screaming in despair, Sun watches as his loyal friend dies. And with that, the second season is coming to an end.